Here at Theopolis, we talk a lot about the progression from priest to king to prophet. Adam was created a priest, but he was put in a garden that included a tree of the knowledge of good and evil that represented advance into kingship. He was supposed to grow up so that he could share in God's rule, so he could share in God's judgment over the earth. And then Adam was also supposed to mature into a prophet, somebody with whom God would consult, somebody who would share in God's rule over the earth, somebody who would speak with prophetic power. And that's the kind of sequence we see in the Bible's presentation of music. We initially have priests singing and offering sacrifices of praise. We have a great outburst of music when the kings come. And then we have prophets also singing in unique ways. The first time we see prophets associated with music is in 1 Samuel 10, or one of the early times we see prophets associated with music is in 1 Samuel 10. Saul has just been designated as the king for Israel. And one of the signs that he's going to be the king is that he's going to meet a company of prophets, and the Spirit is going to grip him, and then he's going to prophesy along with the prophets. One of the intriguing things about the scene is that the prophets are in procession prophesying, but they also have musical instruments with them. They have a flute, they have a tambourine, they have a lyre. So whatever they're doing in their prophesying, they're doing it to the accompaniment of musical instruments, where they're singing to a melody produced by those instruments, or if those instruments provide a kind of background to the prophetic chant, there's an association with prophecy and music. And when Saul is gripped by the Spirit and begins to prophesy, that means he begins to sing. He sings along with the other prophets. And caught up in the Spirit, he prophesies. We see the same thing in 2 Kings when Elisha is asked to prophesy. He's out on a battlefield with the kings of Israel, and the king of Israel and the king of Judah. They've gotten themselves into a mess out in the wilderness. There's no water, and so they decide to consult a prophet of the Lord and see what will happen. In order to prophesy, Elisha asks for a minstrel to be brought to play music, and the music inspires him to prophetic utterance. And I think from those and some other scattered indications, we can conclude that the prophets of Israel are singers. They would chant their prophecies. The word of the Lord would come to them, but they wouldn't just speak their prophecies in a spoken voice, but they would chant their prophecies. My guess is that many of the prophecies were chanted to music, a musical accompaniment of some kind. In fact, even not only those kind of ecstatic prophetic experiences of music, but even the music that's done in the temple is described as prophecy. In 1 Chronicles 25, when David is setting up the Levitical choir and orchestra, he sets up the Levitical orchestra, he gives them instruments, and they're given these instruments in order to prophesy, the text says. So when they're singing, they're prophesying prophesying in song as they sing the Psalms of David or some other text. In the New Covenant, of course, we're all prophets. We've received the Spirit of Jesus, the Spirit of the prophet, the Spirit of prophecy. And one of the ways that we display that prophetic calling is by joining together in song. When you sing together with your church on Sunday morning, when you sing together at a Bible study, or when you gather with your friends at home and sing psalms and hymns on an evening, you are acting like a company of prophets, filled with the Spirit who gives us inspires us to sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs and make melody in our heart. This is one of the key ways that we function as a company of prophets in the church.